I want to say first, finally an anime with a lot of blood, man, in like a long time.
Yeah, that never happens.
Pokemon, like, what the heck? Such a violence and gruel. I got two questions for this dude on the right. Why did you change the music from the previous Hellsing, man?
Well,
it's all like that jazz thing they work with Alucard.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't work on the music, but it's really a better question you might want to ask the Genion producers panel tomorrow. I think, what time is that? 3 o'clock, I think, in the afternoon? 2:30 tomorrow. Yeah. But all I know is that they have different music producers from the first series, and I can't tell you why they went from one producer to the other. But sorry about that.
And can you explain, like, what's the purpose of the first one, Incarnado? Like, was that just something to show off your cool talents?
Basically, the reason Incognito came out in the original series was because when the original series was made, the manga was just very early on in the story. They hadn't really developed the Millennium Group arc and everything like that, so they had to find some way to go, and they started creating their sort of tangent with Incognito because they didn't want to tread into waters that they didn't really know yet in terms of stepping on Mr. Hirano's toes and maybe changing things around like he was trying to do.
The one Alucard. I'm sorry, I haven't remember this. This is something from Final Fantasy. Because you were the voice actor for Sephiroth. How cool was that? No?
Fail.
I'm sorry, I'm leaving.
Peace!
And dude, if you like the ultra violent stuff, you can pick up an old school show called This is the North Star. Hope to see some stuff explode.
Hi. I have two questions and a comment. First comment, I am very glad you didn't change out all the blood and gore when it came to the Japanese version to the English version, because a lot of animes, they turn like 13 and up shows into like 8-year-old shows, which really tick me off, like Yu-Gi-Oh, for example. Anyways, first question is for general, more like the voice actors, but how do you get into character when you're going to do an episode? How do you get into character?
I'll start there. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. As an actor, you learn your craft, you learn all these different ways to get into a character, and it's a really complex thing. I mean, they have things like called actors' wedges, where you come up with all these different motivations and intentions about who your character is and what kind of life he had, what happened before the scene, what happened after the scene. I mean, it's actually a really complex craft, and I think all actors have a different process. But there's probably more that goes into it than people really think a lot of times. I mean, me personally, for Jan, I was just kind of like following Taliesin's lead a lot of the way, and what I was doing to get into character was really kind of happening in the moment, because it was just that kind of work. But other times, I mean, you can spend days preparing a character, like creating an entire life for that person, and that's just part of the craft of acting.
Anyway, second question is for Crispin. Have you considered being the voice actor for like movie trailers, since you have like a manly voice?
In a world!
While my voice can go deep, that's not where my voice normally sits, as you can tell when I'm just talking.
He normally talks like this. We do little things together.
The trailer thing will probably happen for me if I continue voice acting when I get older. Most of the guys who do that kind of trailer stuff and real, those guys, you need a little age. You need the chords to get a little bigger and everything else. The problem is that a lot of guys who can do that, that's all they can do. And once they sort of develop that tone in their voice, it's harder for them to do higher pitched characters. So right now I'm enjoying the flexibility. That will come in the future.
I just hope that if you do one, it better be Hellsing the movie, and it better be
I'm sorry to ask this, but we're almost running out of time, so I want to keep questions down to one per person from now on, okay, please? Thank you.
Since the OVA is going to be following the manga a lot more closely, I was wondering how much of the manga you've read or are familiar with, and how that, if at all, has affected how you approach the characters.
I'll say, I don't think any of the actors have read the manga, and I kind of like it that way. Seriously, I've read all 8 volumes. I've read the official Dark Horse translations. I've had separate translations that my friends have helped me out with, things I didn't quite understand. We take it apart, I take time, and we take everything apart. As long as I know what's going on, they're cool not to. They don't even know that stuff. I don't even know if most of them want.
When I'm working on the show, I want to know the show. I want to know what the script of the show is before I go in and everything else. But if I go and read the manga, now I've got 2 different competing stories in my head because they're slightly different, and I can get in trouble because I'll try to work something in that I know is in the manga but isn't supported in the script or the screenplay. So I would rather not read the manga until we're done with the stuff. Then I can go enjoy the manga because it's a different experience. But I want to make sure that the animation that we're working on, and I want to know that before I go in, but I want to make sure that is consistent and whole unto itself before I start looking at other things.
Hey, you guys okay? Good. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and jump on this kiss-ass bandwagon and say you guys are better than the Japanese vocal cast. By far. Alright. Question for you, Mr. Freeman. Now, is anybody familiar with this American game, Makai Kingdom? Yeah! You know what I'm talking about. Your best line from that game, I'm one badass freaking overlord. If you could, I would go ahead and score my roommate and see how cool you are.
I'm one badass freaking overlord!
First off, I'll probably get mauled for this, but aside from Kingdom Hearts 2, I think the voice for Sephiroth and Advent Children was perfect. I wouldn't change it.
It's fine.
Not that I don't love you.
Oh!
One character that I always give you, I've given it to you before. Rosia.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to say the directing for Hellsing was awesome. I'm very good. So dedicated to go and get such legit actors instead of phonies. That was
I found these people at a street corner one day.
Well, the accents were all done very well, and I do give the English cast more props than the Japanese cast just because of the accents right there.
I try and treat it like theater. I'll say I try really hard to treat it like theater and not compare too much because I know that they're doing an entirely different thing in Japanese. They have different goals in Japanese, and there's some really good stuff in the Japanese. I mean, really, there's some. Oh my God,
Amazing.
And we get to do it. The nice thing is, I try not to pay attention to the Japanese at all when we're doing this because that would be disrespectful to them and disrespectful to the Japanese, and kind of disrespectful to you. I can get to it, but yeah, it's we try and treat it a little bit more like theater. Like it's I've seen 5 Macbeths, and this Macbeth is you kind of want to build a new cast, and I feel like we really have done that, and that we've got a sound that's pretty kick-ass.
Where's Alexander?
I think Steven might be working as a real actor.
You guys.
Oh!